webinar. This is the third webinar that we are running in this series. So we started in May. There were like nearly 80 FM leaders who joined in. Many missed it. And then we had the second one, end of May, where we have nearly 300 who joined it. And this is the third one before we stop for the summer, and then we reconvene again in September. So before I begin, hope you all will have a good, nice summer holidays, because the market is very, very active. This July, August, September is going to be really, really active. So a lot of tenders that's there already. You can see the MOJ, the CCS call of contracts are coming out, the new healthcare framework, and on the private sector, you have the PBC, which is already live, the Landsec, anytime results will be coming out. So much activities are happening. So what we hear is, as UK's leading market intelligence company, specifically for FM, thought we'll share some insights to you. So but the biggest issue that we're currently facing is the perception of what is FM. This question has been there lingering for a long time, but today we have been talking about this for more than a year. If we don't confirm the core elements of FM and then the additional or value-added elements of FM, then what that meant is the challenges, we are diluted, or we are now tier 2, tier 3 providers to some of the bigger providers. It just like, the market procures differently. We have seen the trends moving up from single to bundle TFM 2018, 19-ish, 20, and when Brexit happened and when COVID bits and pieces happened, resilience became key, and the market is now shifting more bundle, single, but in certain elements, it's still TFM. But no, people have procured in the past, continue to procure. Workplace services kicking in, technology-based FM, smart buildings is there, energy is there, construction FM, tech-enabled FM, which is like, what, can you just take the CAFM, can you just take the data, and can you just use that insights and make it as an FM provider in addition to what you currently do? Obviously, there are a lot of real estate providers who also, before they used to outsource it, but now they are entering really, really deeply, like the CBREs and the Cushmans of the world, integrators of the world, like the KBRs and Sodexo, 3-4 years ago, very popular model, but now it's fizzling out, but, still there, where you don't provide FM, but you manage all the FM suppliers to just make it happen. This will never be solved. Politics, industry body in the UK never be solved, but IWFM training stokes events company, it's there for us, but we are missing the plot on a collective lobbying with the government or with anybody to focus on some of the key elements. But what that meant is the trends of what's going to happen within the sector will always be based on reactions. It's always be based on reaction. So these are some of the what we call elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, but it's still there. But the challenge doesn't stop there. What that meant is the big businesses or the strategic suppliers within the government or the big framework suppliers, they all are doing whatever they have to do to position their own market growth. So they work on silos. In many cases, they compete and pull the market down. So then the technology companies are now through the aidance of some research companies are taking the market to totally different elements, because that's how traditionally they work. They create a big fuss about technology. Everything is going to change because of technology. This research report says I am great. That research report says you are great, etc. And then in some cases you could pay, and then they'll just write something for you, and then you can then take it to the market and say X company says it's great, and then just position yourself. What that meant is the prop tech, the FM SaaS, the workplace ESG tech, and traditional contact center companies, and also companies that used to do digital transformation, like big tech companies, have all come into this market. So that's there. Then you have the talent shortages, and then we have covered in depth in all these things in our FM market report that's got refreshed June the 30th. It's very, very new, the latest market report, because we refresh our report every 6 months, and this is based on all these data points. So have a look within our website, baachurain.com, UK FM market 2023 to 27. Now we have forecasted the growth by sector, challenges, trends, deep down market insights and stuff is there. But this is just a high level heads up. Some of the, in last time we had a query about, some of the sectors, especially We're looking at leisure and some elements of retail. Still it's not been outsourced. So we still are working with them. Automobile, most of it is done, but logistics and distribution is another area where it's still done on scattered areas. So how can you kind of help us to understand what could be the realistic addressable spend of FM within these suppliers? Again, this is a high level benchmark. It could vary by, as you can imagine, by different sectors and the infrastructure, the complexity, extra. But and also insourcing, outsourcing, it's not always going to be the same. Just because currently it's been done on this level doesn't mean when you take over, it's going to be the same percentage as well, right? So, and also the geographic locations, the level of services required, but it's a ballpark. Can swing between 0.1% to 3% of any company's turnover. Say, for example, if you have a 10 accounts in banks that you're looking at, and obviously banks is a very tricky one because their turnover might be in billions, but there may be like 3 people working on that hedge fund, so just be mindful. But the traditional sectors, ballpark, it could swing between 0.1% to 3% of the overall turnover. So this is another thing. Most FM companies realize that, what, the market is crowded. I need to improve my value chain. So you can clearly see the acquisition or consolidation that's happening in the market means that there are a lot of companies buying other companies, which is going to add this little value added services. Say I'm a single service company, let me go and buy another single service company, or some accreditation or health and safety or specific engineering company buying out another engineering company in a different region, etc. So it's there, but the market is going to be very, very buoyant anyway. There is a question again that was raised. Did you notice that the number of tenders that's coming to the market is actually reducing? That's an interesting question, and because we do monitor contracts from 2012 onwards, both on public and private, and we have seen a shift happening because of this very first question on what is FM meant. Like, we delete some of the projects. This used to be procured as FM, like, for example, IT services, is it FM or not FM? In the past, it used to be procured as FM. Car parking, so many other, so many related things, so the number of contracts, it's like, unless somebody defines hardcore what's FM and what's not FM, this is going to be challenging. But either way, we are working through that, and we'll let you know. So what you find here is, yes, the graph is not clear. Sorry, it's my graphical ability. Next time it will be done better because we'll pass on to my designer. So what you want to find here is, single services company trying to buy another single services companies just so that they could provide bundled services, and bundled services company are just gradually working through, the single services companies, or in many cases working through managing agents, etc., just so that they not only tender for contracts, but they could also be on the supply chain of this big integrator companies, because they don't normally have a supply chain across all the buildings that they manage. So that's a nice marriage. It's there. And then you also have engineering services, pure play engineering services, some huge engineering services still continuing to play on that domain. So on one end you have the cleaning, security, soft single services. Other end you have the engineering services on the top, and then collectively some work through as bundled single services. They just go with that. Then on this side you have the IFM, or the workplace, now that's been added, and some positioning themselves as tech-enabled companies, and some are positioning themselves as data-driven companies. Is also, so it's all there, but the market is still procuring FM in the same way, because nobody, while it's also nice to just go and tell them, there might be few questions about, hey, what technology, what innovation, what they're actually going to do to deliver, but that's all coming from your pocket. There's nothing that the client is going to give you to do it, unless it's a long-term contract, and and it's totally relationship in private sector. I know many of the FM companies have burned themselves, haven't made anything out of it, and there is a lot of noise in the market about technology, but really, if you go back and talk to the clients, it hasn't converted into actual implementation. So so there is a bit of a gap between what's been told to what's really happening in the market. So then you look at transaction management, or a much more higher level asset management, etc. This is where people don't even talk about FM. FM is just tier three type of a provider, but it's also about overall assets. So here we go. We have a Crown Estate, which is 100,000 assets, but buildings, residential and commercial buildings. I just want to service them. That's it. So I don't know whether it's going to be hard FM or soft FM, or I need to procure it London based or regional based, etc. That's asset management, very, very top end. So work it through. This is your market. It's a crowded market, and you need to find your opportunity in this crowded market, right? So we already talked about it. Can FM ever be singular? I don't think it will ever be singular. It allowed many people to many sectors to come and evolve within it, which is the nice thing. But at the same time, what that meant is, success in the market means that you need to use those latest words that's there, and people will then dictate how you need to service the contract. Say, hey, you know what? You just need to provide net zero. You just need to provide social value, in addition to your contracts. But again, we won't pay you for those things. You have to provide innovation, technology, etc. So how much can you absorb as an FM company? So it's there. But I hardly see anybody making stuff, because you still need to go with your top line growth, and the challenge always comes in. We already covered it. So what that meant is different companies work differently, operate in silos, reduce visibility, and so it's there. So the challenge underlying principle, before I get into the topic, is the twisted data in the market and the endless ifs and buts or generic research reports that's in the market, or a daily tender aggregators that tells you, hey, this is how it's happened. We go and then look at the contract awards, yes, because they don't know. They're just a data aggregator, not necessarily they're subject matter experts. So they're going to come back and inflate the market into something which is really not. Lots of duplicates and so many stuff. So that's where we come in. And between FM providers and the contractors, and the clients, the trust deficit is at varied level. So this has always been a honest presentation, which we have been doing it for a long time, and I don't want you to take it personal, but it's the state of the market, right? Challenge one, what is really FM? Challenge two, because of this stuff, you're going to have some issues, which means, nearly 1.5 billion worth of opportunities were linked wrongly, which means, many of the projects that were there, again, in the projects, construction FM, projects were not in FM codes, and many of the non-FM tenders were tagged in FM. Again, net zero with FM, waste in FM. Is it really procured as FM? So if you just rely on keywords and CPV codes to go for that, you're actually missing a lot of opportunities. That's where science comes in, and that's where none of your data aggregated tools is going to help you. Because yes, if you go with the 80-20 principles, where I'm happy with going with that's fine, but mostly you will be missing it, because we subscribe to a lot of paid tools. We also connect to lots of free tools, and still we miss stuff right now, because it's all like this. The next challenge is insourcing. Insourcing is always going to be there, and I know people can say, okay, it's minuscule, but and again, the definition of what is insourcing. Insourcing is the public company going to do it themselves. They're always going to do it, or they passed on to a private provider and then they pulled it back, or they passed on from a private provider and passed it back to another public provider who also have a limited company. So in that way, it's insourced within the public sector, but it's not insourced within the company or within that public client. It's all there. In a snapshot, we have a detailed analysis on this, both on the new PFI or expiry, which has been happening for 2-3 years. What are these 800 plus contracts? When do they expire? Who's running it? Who are the investors, etc. But that's separately, because partly many of the PFIs are brought in-house as well. So if you're looking at in-house, central government is always going to be outsourced, thanks to CCS and all the team that works through that. They have justified, proved, it's our value for money for public to run those services. Let the private sector do it. We will manage on your behalf. A lot of good work went in there. Whereas when it comes to NHS and local council, obviously they're passionate about local suppliers, winning local contracts, but they are not built up for that. While their ethos and values are correct, the people around them, unfortunately, make those decisions. But then when the decision has been made to insource, after that, who's monitoring these people to ensure that the services is still being delivered in the best way as it was delivered in the past? But most of the time, insourcing is only done if the performance of the providers fails anyway. But otherwise, London is going to be the hotspot. And there are different types of clients that you can look into that. Reaffirmers, truth tellers, the killers, and realists. During COVID, these people, that's where you explicitly saw them acting. Some work with them, I'm fine, it's okay, let's just work through that. There's a lot of uncertainty in the markets. I'm just like, you know what, let's part ways. I don't like you, I don't like your company. Thank God this happened. Now I can get rid of you. And there are others who are in between. That's happening. Frameworks, if you know, there's a lot of frameworks. It was pushed in the market 2015 all the way to 20, and many of those frameworks didn't come back. That's the thing. Challenge 4, incumbency at its lowest. Again, if you think we are doing great, we have an amazing relationship, on the back door, your customer is going to talk to somebody else, because it's not what you think. We have done this analysis every year. We do this on the latest analysis that we have done. This is what it says. Out of the 30 odd contracts, 6 have said, yes, we are going to retain, which is good news. 14, or nearly half, hasn't decided, and the another 30% have said this, which means nearly 15 to 18% have said, now we are going to retain. The rest of it undecided, and we are going to change. So many, every now and then we get invited to do this NPS and customer experience surveys. So just be mindful. It's all great, even within the same company, different people have different perceptions about your own thing. Your estates and facilities director might love you, whereas your CEO, HR, IT, and the senior leaders might have a different view of the company. So how do you decide whether this number is the great number for you, right? So it's and that's what it comes in, because what your sales talks to, what your marketing talks, what your operations talks is all different. So it's not what you say to them, it's what they think of you. That's just be mindful of that. We already covered private sector matrix has changed. This is where you are going to find lots and lots of people who are not willing to spend time building relationship. They're happy to just sit, wait for the tender to come in, or somebody tells them, hey, we have this opportunity, let's just go bid for it. So then you realize, okay, I have a good, well-oiled bid machine, but I'm just going to go with it. Or the traditional salespeople, they don't get their hands dirty on writing a bid. They just sit and talk to the customer. And then when the bid goes in, then they get frustrated. It's not written because it's tough. If you have a relationship, you should be willing to get the best out of your team. If they don't, you better write price the right way. If you're not willing to do that, it's not going to work, because the ecosystem of these private sector providers especially has become very, very complex now. Very, very complex. And that's where it's important for you to build relationship, not directly with your customers, but also with the key vendors within these companies. So if you have Microsoft, trusted partner who are working with the client that you're working with, him or her should be your thing. What it meant is, because those are the integrations that you need to build it, which means what ticks for them. How do they procure, how relationship work extra. So don't just go directly to a client, also go through some vendors who are working with them, because FM is now more data, tech, etc. That's what many people have shaped. Yeah. So we are addressing it as we speak. We have released our own market dashboard to our select clients who are reviewing it. So what that meant is, now you can actually see all the contracts that we have cleansed it, which we are cleansing it, and who's running what contract, when does it expire. And if you add all the contracts, a certain number comes in, which means you don't have all the noise on the left side where they just sit and think and come out with all these funky numbers. If you go back and ask them, they just say it's based on my economic model. What economic model? It's based on inflation, macro environment. And we also spoke to a few people, so it's that's not in this case. We are going to have a deep dive on our data robustness, and let's have a look. So primarily that's where we are. So what happened? The market still top 50, circa 20 billion of the market is still with them. So it's they're continuing to make intelligence work. So this is who we are. We provide clarity and insights to the FM community. So the CEOs and MDs who want to have independent view of the market, they ask us, hey, we are entering the new market. We are already in this market. Can do a competitive assessment. Can do a market strategy. We are in Ireland. We are in UK. We are predominantly UK, Ireland. Can you help us to to understand what's happening there, what's upcoming, etc. Specific strategy and marketing directors, more or less on, what do we need a sales pipeline? Yes. Can you help us to build it? Can you also give us the contact details of the people publicly available, and what's the best way of go to market strategy and stuff? So that's what we do for them. Then you have the strategy and marketing directors who just said, okay, what, how can we be of value add, rather than to maintain websites, social media, and then tell people our traffic is increasing, we have a number of followers are increasing, we have published this thought leadership, X amount of downloads, etc. Your salespeople will be like, that's all great. Most of them who downloaded are our competitors, not the prospects. So we need to ensure that the right intelligence goes to the right prospects. How is it that happening, etc. So that's why we enabled these people. So we have tools for that. And then most importantly, investors who invest on the market, they also come to us and then say, okay, we are looking to buy, or some companies have asked us to invest on them. So we have already invested in many cases, and we just want to know how poised they are, because these investors also rely on this generic reports and then make a decision, or they really don't want to know much about the market. The due diligence, etc., are pretty high level. It's only, because they just want to invest the money, show that they are investing money in the right places, etc. And then if they lose money, if they win money, it's all about investment rather than this. So it's unfortunate. And then they come to us and then say, hey, what, we just want to know what's the growth potential of these companies. Now we are collectively joined up. But how can we make it happen? Restructuring, cost cutting, and then all these things happen later, but predominantly high level investor analysis that happens there. Government commercial buyers also uses for benchmarking and also for pre-market engagement within supply chain. So from a friendly basis, here we go, Bhaskar, this tender is coming out. Can you let your network know that this is happening, or we'll just run webinars around it. We either bring in the procurement people, or we bring in the people behind the solution, and then check, this is what your thought process is and what's your view on. So sometimes it happens face to face, sometimes it's happened webinars, and that's what we do. So that's it. We are here dedicated to provide sustainable value. Different people use this differently, and as I mentioned, it's strategy, capture, business winning, business development, go to market. So we don't specifically define this is what we do. We just see these are the products, these are the services that we have. Doesn't matter what do you need, just go with it. So it's all there. So what you're going to see now is going to be based on this. This is a app dashboard. It's there. And if you're interested, drop us a line, hello@baachu.com, and we can provide access to you for 3-4 days, and then you can play with it. It's a very, very simple dashboard. It is not a funky software or something. Very simple dashboard, because we just want to know where the market is. Where the market is on a weekly basis. Okay, log in and see, okay, the number changes. It's good. Yes, number should change, because people won't procure in the same way. Different suppliers have got different details now, new suppliers coming in. That's it. As you can clearly see here on the side, it also breaks down it by different ways. But with that data set, let's just go back and have a look. So we have been monitoring contracts, as I mentioned, from 2012 onwards, but when we started to do projects. So it's only when we brought it all together, it's 2018. 2018, we just thought, hey, we have been sitting on with all these contracts. There should be a use on this data. So what shall we use? We just refresh it. It's a very, very, it's not a straightforward, connected to X link and show you. If you categorize that by hard, soft, if you categorize by different sectors, if you categorize them by different providers, etc., it takes a lot of time behind the scenes, and that's what we are going to say. So what do we do? Collectively, 11,300 contracts at the moment, which we are cleansing. The number is changing, but overall, 48.8 billion USD. Why USD? Because unfortunately, that's how other research companies are doing. We were the only one who used to talk in the pounds. But let's just keep it simple. Others, like you on the right side, you're going to talk about what others have done. That's what we have said. The different companies estimated between 40 to 70 billion USD, and we just said it's 48 billion, and that's based on the contracts that we monitor. That's mentioned. If somebody comes and tells us, Bhaskar, no, FM includes waste, FM includes this, FM includes that, then happy, we can also include it, because some of the all the PFI contracts, we have removed it. So because if you add those things, it also inflates the market. So what is it? So we just took the information, as you can find here, out of the nearly 11,500 contracts, around 1,800 contracts, the contract value wasn't available, so we just helped them fill it. The notorious one, as you can see here, is public sector. We worked with some of the biggest procurers in public. For some reason, even they don't know the actual contract value of the contracts that they are letting out, or even after the contract award, they don't know. So they're asking, go back and check the budget. So if you need to go back and check the budget and fill these gaps, that's a different ballgame altogether. But for now, we have worked an average and we have just filled these gaps. So it's there. And some of the details where contract duration were unavailable, mainly because, you just go back and check. Public sector, again, being notorious on this. You would expect them to come out with so 3-year contract, 5-year contract extension. You might think, it's there. Go and check. We have been tracking this, as I told you, the 30 different sources. We've been doing it for 10 years. Nearly 80% of the top 50 FM companies work with us. Nope. It's the data still there as a gap. So overall, if I take the total contract value, which is if a contract is worth $10 million multiplied by 5, contract duration, that's 50 million, that's your total contract value. So 48.8, it's annual contract value, whereas the overall contract value is 221. That tells you approximately the contract, both public and private, at an average is nearly 4.5 to 5 times. So 5 years is the average contract duration. So, that's numbers that you're going to see here. Public sector, more, private sector there. So again, this private sector number could be high as well, because there are some sectors which are still insourced, but in the past we used to think it's 50-50. I think that should be the case. But obviously, public sector estates are a lot bigger than private sector, and private sector estates, many of the companies are just having one building or maybe one floor of what they manage. So they are not going to come out with it. So who's come out with this? Is outsourced FM, right? This is not addressable spend. This is outsourced FM. So if you then look at how the market is there for the procurement, then this comes a little bit interesting, because it's like, yes, market does procure 3 different ways, but not how you anticipated. That IFM is not the biggest push here, right? It's still there, but it's evenly spent. But on selected markets, it's still preferred, right? So framework, as you can see here, it's not an actual tender, but framework is like, okay, we anticipate a lot more tenders are going to be bucketed under one framework. That's called call-offs. And we are just selecting, rather than to have these 20 contracts, which we need to procure individually, we are bringing all these 20 contracts into one framework. And we are going to choose 5 or 6 or 10 suppliers who can then decide whether they want to go for each of those call-off contracts. And that way they don't need to bid. It sounds nice, but that's not always happen, because most of the framework, when they come out with, they say it's going to be amazing. It's going to be like 30 billion. It's going to be 5 billion. 20, 30 contracts are going to come, but none of the call-off contracts actually comes with. Or in some cases, the call-off contracts that comes with it not necessarily might have the same service specification that you actually bid for in the original framework. It's there, but it's there for you. But the good news is that many of these frameworks have now been consolidated, which means it's not coming out as a framework now, because many of these frameworks which originally came in, because that was the source of income for these public providers, so they can charge. Other public providers who are using this framework, 1%, 2%, etc., realized nobody came to them. So only who are able to do it are now coming back as a framework. Others have fizzled it out. Yes, so that's the thing. So what you find here is, the market is split pretty much evenly with frameworks on board as well. So but if you look specifically on public sector, yes, nearly 11 to 12% is framework, and the rest of it is split evenly. And if you look at private, obviously, private, they don't procure framework, they procure individually. This is where you see that integrated is actually edging towards 40%, whereas hard is there and soft is there. It's still there. This is where, in our case, integrated also means it's also singled. It also bundled services also included on it, right? So we didn't specifically carve out bundled, but that's where you are going to find. So nearly $17 billion worth of opportunities are there. And it comes with that. The reason for this graph, it's like, because if you buy our report, you're not going to get this detailed breakdown as this. Yes, as social infrastructure or central and local government, schools, hospitals, etc. That's how we used to do. But you know what? The traditional report companies don't go at any level like that. So people who buy the other reports, say Frost and Sullivan or Mintel or any other report that I mentioned over there, they then come back and say, this is what they have done, which is public infrastructure institutional. So we have now gone and standardized all of our stuff. But within our graphs, you can find a deep down. But we have got one layer up now, which is like this. The public infrastructure, central and local government, institutional, it's schools, education, healthcare, and housing. Others, anything that didn't fit in, like transport and bits and pieces, goes there. And commercial includes offices and retail, and industrial primarily includes manufacturing sector. So this is how the market is. Obviously, schools is there, public infrastructure, it's local and central government, institutional, and healthcare and education. Simple terms, commercial buildings, anything other private that doesn't fit in commercials goes here. And that's it. You get this good feel as well. The detailed breakdown is there, but this is how I prefer, you know, overall market, what's central, what's healthcare, what's local government, and you can have a good feel for these things. Yeah, central and local government are the big ones, followed by healthcare and stuff. In private sector, you're going to find the same thing. Office is big, manufacturing, pharma comes next. Between them, they nearly have 55-60% on that, and then the others come in. So the others like retail, leisure, etc. It's an emerging market. Lots of activity happening. Manufacturing, pharma is also distribution, logistics is an emerging market. But it's there within our report. We have got detailed trends and forecast for each of those sectors. If you're interested, you can go back and check them. Now let's go back and look at the upcoming opportunities. Obviously, we have refreshed this report, and let's talk from July, because this is we started the webinar in May, so that's why we still kept it in the May. It's better we have a standard slide deck that we talk about, and at the end of the year we will change it to 2024 onward. So immediately this 3 to 6 months, these are some of the renewals. Contract normally, so that when the contract expires, they are in a already mobilized place. So they need 3 months to mobilize, and then 1 or 2 months to actually procure the contracts, which means now most of the contracts that are due December might already be going through now. Yeah, for procurement. I'm talking very minimum. Some guys, just to be on the safer side, might be procuring even 1 year out. 1 year out. So you just need to be aware of. But again, this is just 2023, but you can apply the same trend across the other elements. So if you look upcoming opportunities, it's big. IFM is still there. Central government, a lot of activities happening in there. Housing is always big because of the maintenance that goes with that. So central government and housing are the big sectors, followed by office, commercial building and stuff that comes through. So these are the upcoming renewal opportunities. Now, specifically on the council side, you're finding these bigger opportunities. It's all in millions. And what are the other side? You have MOJ, you have the HMRC, you also have BBC, you have DVLA, you have DFT, you have GPA, all those things. Some are being procured already, some are in the process of being procurement, and all these things are there for you. Similarly, on here, housing, on the private sector, there are some housing with the private housing providers, and you can clearly see some of the tenders that's going to come up in the next 3 years, etc. So it's there. Lloyd's and other stuff is the Landsec already procured, BBC's and procuring now, and it's there. So some have been renewed again. In our case, renewal, we have some details of it, but we just go flat on if it's 3+2, we just think it's 3 and leave it to you to decide. But within the dashboard that we have a lot more details. Central government, as I mentioned, is where most actions are happening as we speak. So what's there for you? You have spent nearly 30-40 minutes listening to this. What's there for you? You do need to have, while it's great that you have a pipeline of opportunities, you might need help on boosting them, just so that when the market, so that when you can actually retain a lot more and also win more. Or you might need to have, I'm fine and I'm perfectly okay, but I just want to have regular market intelligence just so that what's happening. That's even good. So that's where winners and losers differentiate themselves. Winners and losers, yes, you are going to get your numbers anyway. But are you honestly getting it through a strategic way? It's a question that you might need to ask. Losers on the other side are just bidding it. They still need to get it, reactive bidding. And yeah, it works. It might not work. I'm just going to continue to throw the stones and then expect one or two things to fall. But if you plan properly, if you're actually focus on intelligence, if you focus on the trends, and if you focus on which sector, which type of opportunities I want to go for, which relationship I need to build it, you have at least 10% growth, because market is going to grow at 2% year on year, whereas you can actually grow a lot more, because you are now surrounded by people who are entering. They are from tech, prop tech, software as a service providers, and workplace tech, well-being tech. All these guys are now fragmenting your market. Just need to be on that. So this is what we do. If you want supports, we have Rain Contracts, which is our Rain Contracts dashboard. We can very quickly boost it. And if you do have top 20, top 30 prospects or some key competitors you want to monitor, and if you want to give regular intelligence on that, that's what we do on Rain Insights and Rain Intelligence. Rain Insights is it is a monthly program, whereas Rain Intelligence goes largely more deeper, but actually tracks them using AI and other tools. Rain Analytics on the other side is, you can actually plug in what you know to what we know with ChatGPT or Google Bard or any of the tools that we have, and then you can just connect it. It's all there. Let's not confuse yourself. Start with the Rain Contracts app. We are just onboarding 3 companies as we speak. It went live in June last month, immediately after the May webinar. In between July, August, September, we are going to onboard 3. October, November, December, we are going to onboard 3, and that's how we are going to roll, because it's important. And it's going to be a two-way process where we are going to share the insights, they're going to share the insights, and we're just going to go from there. But if you want to have if you like this information, if you want to know, Pascal, I just want to have a quick, detailed, comprehensive 90-page snapshot on where the market is, the trends, forecast, etc. By this is going to be helpful to you. It's £795 only, but this will rise to 1,995, mainly because most of the research companies charge nearly $4,500 or $4,000. Some charges up to $3,500 for something that's very light and very subjective and very high level. Whereas we are much more data-driven, bottom-up analysis, a lot more insights. So if we don't benchmark ourselves with them, then obviously we are diluting ourselves. As we speak now, we have created good relationship with a lot of providers, and that's it. So 795 is where we start with. By next month, it will be bumping up to 1,995. So if you want regular intelligence, some of our trusted friends are also part of what we call memberships. It's there. So the Rain Insights that we talk about monthly, this research report, you are going to get it. Plus, that itself is £795, but if you increase that to 1,995, that itself will cover it. And we normally refresh the report twice, but in some cases, we also provide monthly intelligence in these webinars that we have. If you have pre-market engagement and for buyers, etc., you will be invited to this. So you can have it as a one place just for you, or then you could go back and say, Basket, I want the same thing. But for different colleagues of mine, and also for the bigger companies, and so. But the bigger companies don't invest. They just go. So our focus is on smaller companies and also mid-tier companies, because bigger companies, they just go burn themselves with the traditional strategic consulting companies, and then they come and ask us for help. Because they are trade analysts and stuff. That's how it works. But good luck to them. But we are actively engaging with the SMEs and individuals as we speak. So whether they want sales intelligence, account-based marketing, market intelligence, or bid writing and pricing, we have a solid team that does SFG20 modeling and pricing, asset verification, asset consolidation, condition reporting, soft services pricing, estimating, commercials, and bid writing. We do bid design. We use AI tools to write it effectively as well. So, reach out if you need anything there. And voice of the customers, again, independent assessment. But in this case, we do it specifically market research based on the information that your clients know. When we interview our clients, interview our account directors, and then we interview externals, just make it happen. It's there. It's a very bespoke service that we do. I'm there if you need any help. And finally, training. We do a lot of training on AI, writing, and other stuff. This is what we have done so far. So far, we have submitted 12 bids with AI, shortlisted to all of them. Next round, two were chosen. Final, we won three, and we proceeded to two. And it's happening. But the important thing is, it's all happened with 1/3 bid cost and 5 times faster. So this is a very comprehensive AI bid journey. If you want to work on your sales process or bid process and see, hey, this is what I'm currently doing, how much of it can I optimize it? That's it. So start with training. We have nearly 45 sessions on AI-powered bidder bootcamp. That's a 6-week bootcamp where we tell you how to use AI to go from all the way from writing what we call an executive summary to capture strategy. Capture strategy, as you know, it's pre-bid, competitor research, customer research, and your tender research. Then you can also go and do that, how to write proposal responses, how to kind of take my RFP, shred it using AI, how to create a response matrix, and it goes very, very deep. It's a 6-week boot camp, but we do Monday and Thursday. Some people, they just said, oh, Bhaskar, no, we just want to have an intense program. So we just do that over 4 days as well. That's a proposal mastery on the right side. You have proposal writer, which is like, okay, oh, AI is going to make my proposal writer lazy. No, not necessarily. We will train you to just see how we can do that in 1 day. That's a short, sharp pitch into AI-based writing. That's AI proposal writer. I want to create an AI policy. I want to create AI risk framework. I want to create an AI risk committee, bits and pieces. That's all going to come in with your governance and risk mastery. Your IT teams and others can come on board and you can do it. And finally, it's AI graphics design, which is the only cohort that we have in 2 weeks' time, but that's specifically on how you can use AI to write it. So either way, whether you want intelligence, whether you want tactical support in bid writing, designing, or they want training, or whether you are just looking at market insights, or you just want to know market dashboard, we are here for you. But hope this information was helpful to your success. All the very best, and thank you very much for joining the webinar, and wish you all the success in the AI era. If you need anything, we are here to support you. Until then, look after yourself. Have a happy summer holidays if you're taking one, and I'll speak to you very soon. Thank you.